A mad tea party.
Безумное чаепитие.
A mad tea party. There was a table under a tree in front of the house.
Перед домом был стол под деревом.
There was a table under a tree in front of the house. And the March Hare and the Hatter were having tea at it.
А мартовский заяц и шляпник пили чай.
And the March Hare and the Hatter were having tea at it. A dormouse was sitting between them.
Соня сидел между ними.
A dormouse was sitting between them. It was sleeping, so the Hatter and the March Hare.
Он спал, поэтому шляпник и мартовский заяц.
It was sleeping, so the Hatter and the March Hare were using it as a cushion.
Использовали его как подушку.
Were using it as a cushion. And talking over its head.
И разговаривали над головой.
And talking over its head. Very uncomfortable for the dormouse, thought Alice.
Очень неудобно для Сони, подумала Алиса.
Very uncomfortable for the dormouse, thought Alice. But it's sleeping, and it seems it doesn't mind.
Но он спит, и кажется, он не против.
But it's sleeping, and it seems it doesn't mind. The table was a large one.
Стол был большой.
The table was a large one. But the three were all sitting together at one corner of it.
Но все трое сидели вместе в одном углу.
But the three were all sitting together at one corner of it. No room, no room.
Нет места, нет места.
No room, no room. They cried out when they saw Alice coming.
Закричали они, когда увидели Алису.
They cried out when they saw Alice coming. There's plenty of room, said Alice indignantly.
Много места, с негодованием сказала Алиса.
There's plenty of room, said Alice indignantly. And she sat down in a large armchair at one end of the table.
И села в большое кресло на одном конце стола.
And she sat down in a large armchair at one end of the table. Have some wine, offered the March Hare.
Выпей немного вина, предложил мартовский заяц.
Have some wine, offered the March Hare. Alice looked all round the table, but there was no wine.
Алиса оглядела стол, но вина не было.
Alice looked all round the table, but there was no wine. I don't see any wine, she remarked.
Я не вижу вина, отметила она.
I don't see any wine, she remarked. There isn't any, said the March Hare.
Его нет, сказал мартовский заяц.
There isn't any, said the March Hare. Then it wasn't very civil of you to offer it.
Тогда предлагать вино было не очень вежливо с вашей стороны.
Then it wasn't very civil of you to offer it, said Alice angrily.
Сердито сказала Алиса.
Said Alice angrily. It wasn't very civil of you.
С вашей стороны было не очень вежливо.
It wasn't very civil of you. To sit down, without any invitation, said the March Hare.
Сесть без приглашения, сказал мартовский заяц.
To sit down, without any invitation, said the March Hare. I didn't know it was your table, said Alice.
Я не знала, что это ваш стол, сказала Алиса.
I didn't know it was your table, said Alice. Your hair wants cutting, said the Hatter.
Твои волосы нужно подстричь, сказал шляпник.
Your hair wants cutting, said the Hatter. He was looking at Alice with great curiosity.
Он смотрел на Алису с большим любопытством.
He was looking at Alice with great curiosity. And this was his first remark.
И это было его первое замечание.
And this was his first remark. It is not civil to make personal remarks, Alice said.
Невежливо делать личные замечания, сказала Алиса.
It is not civil to make personal remarks, Alice said. It's very rude.
Это очень грубо.
It's very rude. The Hatter opened his eyes very wide on hearing this.
Шляпник широко открыл глаза, услышав это.
The Hatter opened his eyes very wide on hearing this. But all he said was.
Но все, что он сказал.
but all he said was, "Why is a raven like a writing desk?"
Почему ворон похож на письменный стол?
Why is a raven like a writing desk? We shall have some fun now, thought Alice.
Теперь мы повеселимся, подумала Алиса.
We shall have some fun now, thought Alice. I like riddles.
Я люблю загадки.
I like riddles. I believe I can guess that, she added aloud.
Я думаю, что могу догадаться, добавила она вслух.
I believe I can guess that, she added aloud. Do you mean that you think?
Ты имеешь в виду, что считаешь?
Do you mean that you think? You can find out the answer to it, said the March hare.
Что можешь найти ответ? Сказал мартовский заяц.
You can find out the answer to it, said the March hare. Exactly so, said Alice.
Вот именно, сказала Алиса.
Exactly so, said Alice. Then you should say what you mean.
Тогда должна сказать, что имеешь в виду.
Then you should say what you mean. The March hare went on.
Продолжил мартовский заяц.
The March hare went on. I do, Alice answered.
Хорошо, ответила Алиса.
I do, Alice answered. At least I mean what I say.
По крайней мере, я имею в виду то, что говорю.
At least I mean what I say. That's the same thing, you know.
Это то же самое, знаешь.
That's the same thing, you know. Not the same thing a bit, said the Hatter.
Не то же самое немного, сказал шляпник.
Not the same thing a bit, said the Hatter. One can just as well say that, I see what I eat.
С таким же успехом можно сказать, что я вижу то, что я ем.
One can just as well say that, I see what I eat. Is the same thing as I eat what I see.
Это то же самое, что и я ем то, что я вижу.
Is the same thing as I eat what I see. One can just as well say, added the March hare.
С таким же успехом можно сказать, добавил мартовский заяц.
One can just as well say, added the March hare. That I like what I get is the same thing as.
Что мне нравится то, что я получаю, это то же самое, что и.
That I like what I get is the same thing as. I get what I like.
Я получаю то, что мне нравится.
I get what I like. One can just as well say, added the dormouse.
С таким же успехом можно сказать, добавил Соня.
One can just as well say, added the dormouse. Who seemed to be talking in his sleep.
Который, казалось, говорил во сне.
Who seemed to be talking in his sleep. That I breathe when I sleep.
Что я дышу, когда сплю.
That I breathe when I sleep. Is the same thing as I sleep when I breathe.
Это то же самое, что и я сплю, когда дышу.
Is the same thing as I sleep when I breathe. It is the same thing with you, said the Hatter.
Это то же самое с тобой, сказал шляпник.
It is the same thing with you, said the Hatter. And here the conversation dropped.
И тут разговор прекратился.
And here the conversation dropped. And the party sat silent for a minute.
И группа на минуту замолчала.
And the party sat silent for a minute. While Alice thought over all.
Пока Алиса обдумывала все.
While Alice thought over all. She could remember about ravens and writing desks.
Что могла вспомнить о воронах и письменных столах.
She could remember about ravens and writing desks. Which wasn't much.
Что было немного.
Which wasn't much. The Hatter was the first to break the silence.
Шляпник первым нарушил тишину.
The Hatter was the first to break the silence. What day of the month is it?
Какой сегодня день месяца?
What day of the month is it? He said, turning to Alice and holding his watch.
сказал он, поворачиваясь к Алисе и держа свои часы.
he said, turning to Alice and holding his watch. He was looking at it uneasily.
Он беспокойно смотрел на них.
He was looking at it uneasily, shaking it every now and then, and holding it to his ear.
Время от времени тряс и подносил к уху.
Shaking it every now and then, and holding it to his ear. Alice said, the fourth.
Алиса сказала, 4.
Alice said, the fourth. 2 days wrong, sighed the Hatter.
2 дня не так, вздохнул шляпник.
2 days wrong, sighed the Hatter. It's the butter, I'm sure. I told you so, he said.
Это масло, я уверен. Я же тебе говорил, сказал он.
It's the butter, I'm sure. I told you so, he said. Looking angrily at the March hare.
Сердито глядя на мартовского зайца.
Looking angrily at the March hare. It was the best butter, the March hare answered.
Это было лучшее масло, ответил мартовский заяц.
It was the best butter, the March hare answered. Yes, but there could be crumbs in it, the Hatter said.
Да, но там могут быть крошки, сказал шляпник.
Yes, but there could be crumbs in it, the Hatter said. You put it with the butter knife, you know.
Ты накладываешь ножом для масла.
You put it with the butter knife, you know. The March hare took the watch and looked at it.
Мартовский заяц взял часы и посмотрел на них.
The March hare took the watch and looked at it. Then he dipped it into his cup of tea.
Затем он опустил их в свою чашку чая.
Then he dipped it into his cup of tea. And looked at it again.
И снова посмотрел на них.
And looked at it again. But after that he could only repeat.
Но после этого он мог только повторить.
But after that he could only repeat. It was the best butter, you know.
Это было лучшее масло, знаете.
It was the best butter, you know. What a funny watch.
Какие забавные часы.
What a funny watch. Alice remarked, looking at it over his shoulder.
Заметила Алиса, глядя на них через плечо.
Alice remarked, looking at it over his shoulder. It tells the day of the month, and doesn't tell what time it is.
Он сообщает день месяца и не говорит, который час.
It tells the day of the month, and doesn't tell what time it is. Of course, muttered the Hatter.
Конечно, пробормотал шляпник.
Of course, muttered the Hatter. Does your watch tell you what year it is?
Твои часы говорят, какой сейчас год.
Does your watch tell you what year it is? Of course not, Alice answered.
Конечно, нет, ответила Алиса.
Of course not, Alice answered. But that's because it stays the same year.
Так это потому, что они остаются в одном году.
But that's because it stays the same year. For such a long time, together.
В течение долгого времени.
For such a long time, together. Which is just the case with mine, said the Hatter.
Как раз с моими то же самое, сказал шляпник.
Which is just the case with mine, said the Hatter. Alice couldn't understand it.
Алиса не могла понять этого.
Alice couldn't understand it. The Hatter's remark seemed to have no sort of meaning in it.
Похоже, замечание шляпника не имело никакого значения.
The Hatter's remark seemed to have no sort of meaning in it. And yet it was certainly English.
И все же оно было определенно английским.
And yet it was certainly English. I don't quite understand you.
Я тебя не совсем понимаю.
I don't quite understand you. She said, as politely as she could.
Сказала она так вежливо, как только могла.
She said, as politely as she could. The dormouse is sleeping again, said the Hatter.
Соня снова спит, сказал шляпник.
The dormouse is sleeping again, said the Hatter. And he poured a little hot tea on its nose.
И налил ему в нос немного горячего чая.
And he poured a little hot tea on its nose. The dormouse shook its head impatiently.
Соня нетерпеливо покачал головой.
The dormouse shook its head impatiently. And said, without opening its eyes.
И сказал, не открывая глаз.
And said, without opening its eyes. Of course, of course.
Конечно, конечно.
Of course, of course. Just what I was going to remark myself.
Только то, что я собирался заметить сам.
Just what I was going to remark myself. What about the riddle?
Как насчет загадки?
What about the riddle? The Hatter said, turning to Alice again.
Сказал шляпник, снова поворачиваясь к Алисе.
The Hatter said, turning to Alice again. Can you find out the answer?
Ты можешь разгадать.
Can you find out the answer? No, I give it up, Alice said. What's the answer?
Нет, сдаюсь, сказала Алиса. Какой ответ?
No, I give it up, Alice said. What's the answer? I don't know, said the Hatter.
Я не знаю, сказал шляпник.
I don't know, said the Hatter. No idea, said the March Hare.
Понятия не имею, сказал мартовский заяц.
No idea, said the March Hare. Alice sighed.
Алиса вздохнула.
Alice sighed. You can do something better with the time, she said.
Вы можете сделать что-то лучше и со временем, сказала она.
You can do something better with the time, she said. Than waste it in asking riddles that have no answers.
Чем тратить время, задавая загадки, на которых нет ответов.
Than waste it in asking riddles that have no answers. You don't know time as well as I do, said the Hatter.
Ты не знаешь время хорошо, как я, сказал шляпник.
You don't know time as well as I do, said the Hatter. That's why you don't know he's not it. It's him.
Поэтому ты не знаешь, что он не это он.
That's why you don't know he's not it. It's him. I don't know what you mean, said Alice.
Я не знаю, что ты имеешь в виду, сказала Алиса.
I don't know what you mean, said Alice. Of course you don't, the Hatter said with contempt.
Конечно, нет, с презрением сказал шляпник.
Of course you don't, the Hatter said with contempt. I believe you never even spoke to time.
Я думаю, что ты никогда не говорила с временем.
I believe you never even spoke to time. Maybe not, Alice answered.
Возможно, нет, ответила Алиса.
Maybe not, Alice answered. But I know I have to beat time when I learn music.
Но мне приходится отбивать ритм, когда изучаю музыку.
But I know I have to beat time when I learn music. Ah, that's it, said the Hatter. He doesn't like beating.
Ах, вот и все, сказал шляпник. Он не любит бить.
Ah, that's it, said the Hatter. He doesn't like beating. You must keep on good terms with him.
Ты должна поддерживать с ним хорошие отношения.
You must keep on good terms with him. And he will do almost anything for you with the clock.
И он сделает все для тебя вовремя.
And he will do almost anything for you with the clock. Just imagine, it's 9 o'clock in the morning.
Представь, сейчас 9 часов утра.
Just imagine, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. Just time to begin lessons.
Самое время начинать уроки.
Just time to begin lessons. You whisper a word to time.
Ты шепчешь слово времени.
You whisper a word to time. And the clock goes round in a moment.
И часы мгновенно вращаются.
And the clock goes round in a moment. 1:30, time for dinner.
1:30, время обедать.
1:30, time for dinner. That would be great, certainly, said Alice thoughtfully.
Было бы здорово, конечно, задумчиво сказала Алиса.
That would be great, certainly, said Alice thoughtfully. But then, my dinner will be too soon after breakfast.
Но тогда, мой ужин будет слишком рано после завтрака.
But then, my dinner will be too soon after breakfast. Maybe, said the Hatter.
Может быть, сказал шляпник.
Maybe, said the Hatter. But he can keep it to 1:30 as long as you like.
Но он может удержать его до 1:30 так долго, как захочешь.
But he can keep it to 1:30 as long as you like. Is that the way you manage? Alice asked.
Так ты справляешься? Спросила Алиса.
Is that the way you manage? Alice asked. The Hatter shook his head sadly.
Шляпник печально покачал головой.
The Hatter shook his head sadly. Not I, he answered.
Не я, ответил он.
Not I, he answered. We quarreled last March.
Мы поссорились в марте прошлого года.
We quarreled last March. Just before he went mad, you know.
Незадолго до того, как он сошел с ума, знаешь ли.
Just before he went mad, you know. Pointing with his teaspoon at the March hare.
Указывая чайной ложкой на мартовского зайца.
Pointing with his teaspoon at the March hare. It was at the great concert, and I was singing.
Это было на большом концерте, и я пел.
It was at the great concert, and I was singing. Twinkle, twinkle, little bat.
Мерцай, мерцай, маленькая летучая мышь.
Twinkle, twinkle, little bat. How I wonder what you're at.
Как интересно, что ты делаешь.
How I wonder what you're at. You know the song, I believe.
Ты знаешь песню, полагаю.
You know the song, I believe. It sounds familiar, said Alice.
Звучит знакомо, сказала Алиса.
It sounds familiar, said Alice. Well, after the first verse, continued the Hatter.
Ну, после первого стиха, продолжил шляпник.
Well, after the first verse, continued the Hatter. The Queen jumped up and called out.
Королева вскочила и крикнула.
The Queen jumped up and called out. He's murdering the time. Off with his head.
Он убивает время. Прочь ему голову.
He's murdering the time. Off with his head. How horrible! Exclaimed Alice.
Как ужасно! Вскрикнула Алиса.
How horrible! Exclaimed Alice. And after that, the Hatter went on sadly.
И после этого, печально продолжил шляпник.
And after that, the Hatter went on sadly. He stopped doing anything I ask.
Он перестал делать все, что я прошу.
He stopped doing anything I ask. It's always 6 o'clock now.
Теперь всегда 6 часов.
It's always 6 o'clock now. A bright idea came into Alice's head.
И Алисе пришла яркая идея.
A bright idea came into Alice's head. Is that the reason you have so many tea things here? She asked.
Это причина, по которой здесь так много чая? Спросила она.
Is that the reason you have so many tea things here? She asked. Yes, that's it, said the Hatter with a sigh.
Да, вот и все. Со вздохом сказал шляпник.
Yes, that's it, said the Hatter with a sigh. It's always tea time, and we've no time to wash the dishes.
Это всегда время чая, и нет времени помыть посуду.
It's always tea time, and we've no time to wash the dishes. And you keep moving round, said Alice.
И вы продолжаете пить чай, сказала Алиса.
And you keep moving round, said Alice. Exactly so, said the Hatter.
Точно так, сказал шляпник.
Exactly so, said the Hatter. But what happens when you come to the beginning again?
Но что произойдет, когда вы вновь придете к началу?
But what happens when you come to the beginning again? Alice asked eagerly.
Нетерпеливо спросила Алиса.
Alice asked eagerly. Let's change the subject, the March hare interrupted, yawning.
Давайте сменим тему, мартовский заяц прервал, зевая.
Let's change the subject, the March hare interrupted, yawning. I'm getting tired of this.
Я устал от этого.
I'm getting tired of this. Let the young lady tell us a story.
Пусть молодая леди расскажет нам историю.
Let the young lady tell us a story. I'm afraid I don't know one, said Alice anxiously.
Боюсь, я не знаю ни одной, с тревогой сказала Алиса.
I'm afraid I don't know one, said Alice anxiously. Then the Dormouse will, they both cried.
Тогда Соня расскажет, воскликнули они.
Then the Dormouse will, they both cried. Wake up, Dormouse.
Проснись, Соня.
Wake up, Dormouse. And they pinched it on both sides at once.
И они ущипнули его с обеих сторон одновременно.
And they pinched it on both sides at once. The Dormouse slowly opened his eyes.
Соня медленно открыл глаза.
The Dormouse slowly opened his eyes. I wasn't sleeping, he said in a hoarse voice.
Я не спал, сказал он хриплым голосом.
I wasn't sleeping, he said in a hoarse voice. I heard every word you were saying.
Я слышал каждое ваше слово.
I heard every word you were saying. Tell us a story, said the March Hare.
Расскажи нам историю, сказал мартовский заяц.
Tell us a story, said the March Hare. Yes, please do, pleaded Alice.
Да, пожалуйста, попросила Алиса.
Yes, please do, pleaded Alice. And be quick about it, added the Hatter.
И будь спокоен, добавил шляпник.
And be quick about it, added the Hatter. Or you'll fall asleep again before the end of it.
Иначе ты снова заснешь, не закончив.
Or you'll fall asleep again before the end of it. Once upon a time there were 3 little sisters.
Давным-давно было 3 маленьких сестры.
Once upon a time there were 3 little sisters. The Dormouse began in a great hurry.
Соня начал очень спеша.
The Dormouse began in a great hurry. And their names were Elsie, Lacey, and Tilly.
И их звали Элси, Лейси и Тилли.
And their names were Elsie, Lacey, and Tilly. And they lived at the bottom of a well.
И они жили на дне колодца.
And they lived at the bottom of a well. What did they live on there? Said Alice.
Как они там жили, сказала Алиса.
What did they live on there? Said Alice, who always took a great interest in questions of eating and drinking.
Которая всегда увлекалась вопросами еды и питья.
Who always took a great interest in questions of eating and drinking. They lived on treacle, said the Dormouse.
Они жили в патоке, сказал Соня.
They lived on treacle, said the Dormouse. After thinking a minute or two.
Подумав минуту или 2.
After thinking a minute or two. It's impossible, you know, Alice remarked.
Знаете, так невозможно, заметила Алиса.
It's impossible, you know, Alice remarked. One can't live on treacle without being ill.
Нельзя жить в патоке, не болея.
One can't live on treacle without being ill. But they were ill, said the Dormouse.
Но они были больны, сказал Соня.
But they were ill, said the Dormouse. Very ill.
Очень больны.
Very ill. Alice tried to imagine this extraordinary way of living.
Алиса пыталась представить себе этот необыкновенный образ жизни.
Alice tried to imagine this extraordinary way of living. But it puzzled her too much.
Но это слишком озадачило ее.
But it puzzled her too much. She went on, but why did they live at the bottom of a well?
Она продолжила, но почему они жили на дне колодца?
She went on, but why did they live at the bottom of a well? Take some more tea, the March Hare said to Alice.
Выпей еще чаю, сказал Алисе мартовский заяц.
Take some more tea, the March Hare said to Alice. How can I have more? Alice asked in an offended tone.
Как я могу выпить больше? Спросила Алиса обиженным тоном.
How can I have more? Alice asked in an offended tone. I had no tea.
У меня не было чая.
I had no tea. You mean you can't take less, said the Hatter.
Ты имеешь в виду, что не можешь выпить меньше, сказал шляпник.
You mean you can't take less, said the Hatter. It's very easy to take more than nothing.
Очень легко взять больше, чем ничего.
It's very easy to take more than nothing. Nobody asked your opinion, said Alice.
Никто не спрашивал твоего мнения, сказала Алиса.
Nobody asked your opinion, said Alice. Who's making personal remarks now? The Hatter asked triumphantly.
Кто сейчас делает личные замечания? Шляпник спросил торжествующе.
Who's making personal remarks now? The Hatter asked triumphantly. Alice did not know what to say to this.
Алиса не знала, что сказать по этому поводу.
Alice did not know what to say to this. So she helped herself to some tea and bread and butter.
Поэтому она взяла себе чай и хлеб с маслом.
So she helped herself to some tea and bread and butter. And then turned to the dormouse and repeated her question.
Потом повернулась к Соне и повторила свой вопрос.
And then turned to the dormouse and repeated her question. Why did they live at the bottom of a well?
Почему они жили на дне колодца?
Why did they live at the bottom of a well? The dormouse again took a minute or two to think about it.
Соня использовал минуту или две, чтобы подумать об этом.
The dormouse again took a minute or two to think about it. And then said, it was a treacle well.
А затем сказал, это была патока.
And then said, it was a treacle well. There's no such thing, Alice answered very angrily.
Нет такого понятия. Алиса ответила очень сердито.
There's no such thing, Alice answered very angrily. But the Hatter and the March Hare said, quiet.
Но шляпник и мартовский заяц сказали, тихо.
But the Hatter and the March Hare said, quiet. And the Dormouse sulkily remarked.
И Соня сонливо заметил.
And the Dormouse sulkily remarked. You can finish the story for yourself, you know.
Вы можете закончить рассказ сами, знаете ли.
You can finish the story for yourself, you know. No, please go on, Alice said very humbly.
Нет, пожалуйста, продолжай, Алиса сказала очень смиренно.
No, please go on, Alice said very humbly. I won't interrupt again.
Я больше не буду прерывать.
I won't interrupt again. I believe there may be one.
Если только один раз.
I believe there may be one. The Dormouse went on.
Соня продолжил.
The Dormouse went on. And so these three little sisters.
Итак, эти три маленькие сестры.
And so these three little sisters. They were learning to draw, you know.
Они учились рисовать, знаете ли.
They were learning to draw, you know. What did they draw? Said Alice.
Что они рисовали? Спросила Алиса.
What did they draw? Said Alice. Quite forgetting her promise.
Совершенно забыв о своем обещании.
Quite forgetting her promise. Treacle, the Dormouse answered at once.
Патока, сразу же ответил Соня.
Treacle, the Dormouse answered at once. I want a clean cup, interrupted the Hatter.
Я хочу чистую чашку, прервал шляпник.
I want a clean cup, interrupted the Hatter. Let's all move one place on.
Давайте все сместимся в одно место.
Let's all move one place on. He moved on as he spoke.
Он продолжил, пока говорил.
He moved on as he spoke. And the Dormouse followed him.
И Соня последовал за ним.
And the Dormouse followed him. The March Hare moved into the Dormouse's place.
Мартовский заяц подвинулся на место Сони.
The March Hare moved into the Dormouse's place. And Alice had to move to the place of the March Hare.
И Алисе пришлось перейти на место мартовского зайца.
And Alice had to move to the place of the March Hare. The Hatter was the only one.
Шляпник был единственным.
The Hatter was the only one who got any advantage from the change.
Кто получил преимущество от изменений?
Who got any advantage from the change? Alice did not wish to offend the Dormouse again.
Алиса не хотела снова обижать Соню.
Alice did not wish to offend the Dormouse again. So she began very politely.
Поэтому начала очень вежливо.
So she began very politely. But I don't understand.
Но я не понимаю.
But I don't understand. Where did they draw the treacle from?
Откуда они взяли патоку?
Where did they draw the treacle from? You can draw water out of a water well, said the Hatter.
Ты можешь взять воду из колодца, сказал шляпник.
You can draw water out of a water well, said the Hatter. So one can draw treacle out of a treacle well, stupid.
Значит, из патоки колодца можно достать патоку, ага, глупо.
So one can draw treacle out of a treacle well, stupid. But they were in the well, Alice said to the Dormouse.
Но они же были в колодце, сказала Алиса Соня.
But they were in the well, Alice said to the Dormouse. Not choosing to notice this last remark.
Не обращая внимания на последнее замечание.
Not choosing to notice this last remark. Of course they were, said the Dormouse, well in.
Конечно, были, сказал Соня, хорошо.
Of course they were, said the Dormouse, well in. This answer so confused poor Alice.
Этот ответ настолько смутил бедную Алису.
This answer so confused poor Alice. That she let the Dormouse go on for some time without interrupting it.
Что позволило Соне продолжить какое-то время, не прерывая его.
That she let the Dormouse go on for some time without interrupting it. They were learning to draw.
Они учились рисовать.
They were learning to draw. The Dormouse went on, yawning and rubbing its eyes.
Продолжил Соня, зевая и протирая глаза.
The Dormouse went on, yawning and rubbing its eyes. Because it was getting very sleepy.
Потому что становился очень сонным.
Because it was getting very sleepy. And they drew all manner of things.
И они рисовали всевозможные вещи.
And they drew all manner of things. Everything that begins with an M.
Все, что начинается на М.
Everything that begins with an M. Why with an M, said Alice.
Почему на М, сказала Алиса.
Why with an M, said Alice. Why not, said the March Hare.
Почему бы и нет, сказал мартовский заяц.
Why not, said the March Hare. Alice was silent.
Алиса молчала.
Alice was silent. They had to wake the Dormouse, and it went on.
Они должны были разбудить Соню, и он продолжил.
They had to wake the Dormouse, and it went on. That begins with an M, such as mouse traps.
Которая начинается на букву М, типа мышеловки.
That begins with an M, such as mouse traps. And the moon, and memory, and muchness.
И луна, и память, и мучность.
And the moon, and memory, and muchness. Did you ever see such a thing as a drawing of a muchness?
Вы когда-нибудь видели такую вещь, как рисунок мучности?
Did you ever see such a thing as a drawing of a muchness? Really, I don't think, said Alice, very much confused.
Действительно, я не знаю, сказала Алиса, очень смущенная.
Really, I don't think, said Alice, very much confused. Then why do you talk, said the Hatter.
Тогда зачем ты говоришь? Сказал шляпник.
Then why do you talk, said the Hatter. This was too much for Alice. She got up and walked off.
Это было слишком для Алисы. Она встала и ушла.
This was too much for Alice. She got up and walked off. The Dormouse immediately fell asleep.
Соня тут же уснул.
The Dormouse immediately fell asleep. And the others didn't notice her going.
А остальные не заметили, как она ушла.
and the others didn't notice her going, though she looked back once or twice.
Хотя она оглянулась раз или два.
Though she looked back once or twice. The last time she saw them.
В последний раз, когда она их видела.
The last time she saw them. They were trying to put the dormouse into the teapot.
Они пытались положить Соню в чайник.
They were trying to put the dormouse into the teapot. At any rate, I'll never go there again.
Во всяком случае, я никогда больше туда не пойду.
At any rate, I'll never go there again. Said Alice, walking through the wood.
Сказала Алиса, прогуливаясь по лесу.
Said Alice, walking through the wood. It's the stupidest tea party I ever was at in all my life.
Это самое глупое чаепитие, в котором я была за всю свою жизнь.
It's the stupidest tea party I ever was at in all my life. Just as she said this.
Как только она это сказала.
Just as she said this. She noticed that one of the trees had a door leading right into it.
Она заметила, что у одного из деревьев была дверь, ведущая прямо в нее.
She noticed that one of the trees had a door leading right into it. That's very curious, she thought.
Это очень любопытно, подумала она.
That's very curious, she thought. But everything's curious today.
Но сегодня все любопытно.
But everything's curious today. I think I may as well go in at once.
Полагаю, что с таким же успехом могу войти сейчас.
I think I may as well go in at once. And she went in.
И она вошла.
And she went in. Once more Alice found herself in the long hall.
Алиса снова оказалась в длинном зале.
Once more Alice found herself in the long hall. And close to the little glass table.
И с маленьким стеклянным столом.
And close to the little glass table. I'll manage better this time, she said to herself.
На этот раз я справлюсь лучше, подумала она.
I'll manage better this time, she said to herself. And took the little golden key, and unlocked the door that led into the garden.
Взяла маленький золотой ключик и открыла дверь, ведущую в сад.
And took the little golden key, and unlocked the door that led into the garden. Then she set to work biting at the mushroom.
Затем она принялась кусать гриб.
Then she set to work biting at the mushroom. Till she was about a foot high.
Пока не достигла высоты фут.
Till she was about a foot high. Then she walked down the little passage.
После она пошла по маленькому проходу.
Then she walked down the little passage. And then, she found herself at last in the beautiful garden.
И затем оказалась в прекрасном саду.
And then, she found herself at last in the beautiful garden. Among the bright flower beds and the cool fountains.
Среди ярких клумб и прохладных фонтанов.
Among the bright flower beds and the cool fountains.
Вам нравится учить английский с нами? Тогда подпишитесь на наш канал, чтобы не пропустить новые видео. И не забудьте поставить лайк. До новых встреч!